The Iranian people, first and foremost, are the losers in all this. I mean, their government is mismanaging all the money that's coming in. The country, whether we're going to make some fast money or not, if you want this region to be stabilized, you need to have some kind of mechanism that holds them in place. But it needs to be a good deal. Okay. And money has to go from the Revolutionary Guard down to the people. Do you know it's more expensive to buy a tank of petrol in Iran than it is anywhere in Europe? But they're one of the world's largest producers of oil.
That doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense because, people can't afford to live.
So you're saying the deal that was signed in 2015 was meaningless? It wasn't.
It wasn't meaningless.
It wasn't a good deal.
It didn't address the right areas. It didn't do. It left too much for the future without appreciating how the system in Iran works.
Okay. So what should it have done?
It should have addressed the way money was going to be spent, who got it. So you could have had a system in place where, for example, investment into an economic sector, like industrial zones that were half owned by, for example, Iran, 50% ownership by a European company, rather than almost all the proceeds and the land and the production sites being owned by Revolutionary Guard connected businesses. You could have had a situation where you put ballistic missiles into the nuclear deal, so you don't get a kind of North Korea blueprint where you build nuclear weapons, you stop, you build missiles, you stop, then you go back to the nuclear. Then you go back to the nuclear program, and what you have a complete program where with the missiles, the delivery system, and the warheads.
So a program which never stopped. So you're saying that the deal only suspended the production, but they didn't destroy. It's all still intact.
Exactly.
Okay.
And now they have better ballistic missiles.
Yes. And now we've seen also on Friday, the 6th of September, Iran has yet again violated its commitments. It's announced that it's ramping up its uranium production and really is provoking European powers to act. What should EU powers be doing? How should they respond to this?
Sanction them. They need to sanction them, and they need to send messages. So until now, the Iranians have been calling all the shots. They tell the Europeans we're going to leave, and they expected the Europeans, do everything to. I think the Europeans should say, okay, then leave. We kill the deal.
Okay.
We'll kill the deal.
But we said, France, for instance, has been very adamant and determined to save this deal at all costs. French President Emmanuel Macron has pledged 15 billion euros to helping the Iranians. Why do you think Macron is so determined to keep this deal alive, and how do you see his role in this mediation?
Economic interests. I mean, French economic interests. Total is very present there. There's about 100 different types of French companies that are operating in Iran right now. They virtually have no competition. The Americans, only a few major American companies had rolled in after the sanctions were relieved, after the 2015 deal. But besides that, there's only European companies. You have about 1,000, mostly German, then British, and then French. Some of the French giants, though, are there, like Total. Okay. And so they stand to lose a lot.
News a lot. If we look at the American side, there are talks currently of a potential meeting between Donald Trump and the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani. Are you optimistic that anything could come out of this meeting?
No, not at all. Rouhani is just a conduit between the real powers in Iran, which is the Ayatollah himself, the supreme leader, of course, as well as the Revolutionary Guard. A man who's now, they had a transition recently. His name is Hossein Salami, as well as the Guardianship Council. So they're the real decision makers in the country. It doesn't matter who talks to Rouhani. Rouhani just delivers messages back and forth.
Okay. So it seems as though this deal is being led by people who don't have the credibility, they don't have the power to actually do anything. What will it take to save this deal?
I think starting from zero, and including the nuclear dimension, the ballistics dimension, but also the way that Iran's behavior will reflect the amount of investment that's allowed into the country. It just seems absurd to put so much money, infuse so much money into the economy, which is controlled by the Revolutionary Guard, so that they can take that money and fight you somewhere else. It just seems very counterproductive. If the goal is to stabilize the Middle East, to stabilize the Gulf, you can't finance organizations that sponsor terrorism, insurgency, whether it be in Yemen or Syria or Iraq, places that we want to see stabilized. It's just counterintuitive.
Counterintuitive. Well, we'll have to wait and see if this message will get out to the powers that be. Hopefully that they will have a power to do something about it. But I will end our talk this Friday. So I've been speaking today to Dr. Mitchell Belfer of the Euro-Gulf Information Centre in Rome. Dr. Mitchell Belfer, thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
your
much.
time.
Thank you.